Hello everybody, I am back at home and that means it's time to wrap up my experience in France. Let's start with my time in Grasse, a small town on the south coast of France. It's considered the heart of the global fragrance industry. On day one, I got to be a student for the day at the Grasse Institute of Perfumery. The experience was incroyable. The day started by sitting in on Professor Philippe Collet's synthetic raw materials class. Raw materials are what perfumers call the ingredients that combine to form a fragrance. Before students ever get to formulate a fragrance, they have to first learn to identify and describe the ingredients. How do they do it? They smell things, lots and lots and lots of things. By the time they graduate, these students will need to be able to identify and describe more than 500 raw materials. It made me wonder how many raw materials a master perfumer can actually identify. Without any visual cues, how many do you think you could identify? Right now, the hotly debated estimate of how many smells our noses recognize is 1 trillion. However, identifying them all, not so easy. Now, while everyone is debating the merits of synthetics or natural ingredients, fragrance students are busy learning about both. I asked one former student what she thought about the debate and she replied, "Does a painter paint with only blue or only red?" I got the point. Committing to one or the other is like an artist losing half their palette. In the afternoon, I got to meet with Marianne Nowacki, the professor of their natural raw materials class. Now, one of the differences between synthetic and natural materials is that synthetics are just one molecule, so the scent signal is really clear. In comparison, natural materials can be made up of hundreds or even thousands of molecules, adding complexity because how they're grown and harvested changes the scent they produce, making them somewhat unpredictable. One of the things that really caught my attention during my chat with Marianne was that some natural fragrances can't be extracted because the process destroys the materials. Those include flowers like lily of the valley, which is not only hard to extract, but it's also poisonous. Marianne uses her talents as a perfumer to recreate otherwise unattainable scents by combining the fragrance from other flowers. On day 2, I met Jessica September Buchanan, a perfumer in Grasse with her own atelier, which is French for workshop. She is amazing. Her fragrances are amazing, and I seriously can't speak more highly about her. I learned about her through an article in the New York Times and reached out thinking there was no way in hell I'd get a chance to meet her. But I did. I sat down with her, and in a very short time, I learned a lot of really great things. I was surprised to learn that you don't have to be a fine fragrancer if you want a career dealing with scent. Many people work with functional fragrances, designing scents for everyday products like shampoos, detergents, deodorants, and air fresheners. Functional formulation represents a really good chunk of the fragrance work that's out there, and it requires some additional skills. If one's not careful, the fragrance materials you use can affect the final formulation and cause instability, discoloration, and even curdling the texture. Jessica also talked about white biotech, a new concept taking hold in the fragrance industry. It's a way of using microscopic critters like yeast, molds, bacteria, or their enzymes to create fragrance materials. These are easily degradable, require less energy, and create less waste during their production. It's a part of a larger push to make the creation of chemicals more sustainable. Yay! For example, fragrance supplier Givaudan is currently using microbes to produce vanillin. This is a key molecule in the smell of vanilla. It's important because people are demanding more vanilla scents and flavors from manufacturers than the current natural supply of vanilla can provide. Next, I headed on over to International Flavors and Fragrances. This is an American company that is one of the top 3 fragrance suppliers in the world. You've most certainly tried a fragrance or flavor they've created or supplied, even if you don't know it. Their Laboratoire Monique Remy focuses specifically on high-quality natural raw materials. I met up with Claire LeBlond, their senior marketing manager, and she drove me down to their experimental fields to show how fragrance flowers are grown. Did you know that different species of the same flower can yield radically different scents? In the greenhouse, I rubbed the leaves of one type of geranium and could smell geranium citrus. When I rubbed the leaves of another though, it smelled like geranium mint instead. This experience was totally wild to me. Also, for the record, all these years I've been smelling geranium flowers and couldn't smell a darn thing. I had no idea that the scent was in the leaves. I also learned that the scent of vetiver comes from the root and not the leaves, and plants like orris, which is actually the root of the iris flower, doesn't initially smell. You have to dry them out for a really long time, like 3 years before the scent emerges. That's what makes orris so expensive. We then traveled back to Laboratoire Monique Remy, where their technical manager, Celine Cerruti, blew my mind by demonstrating how different scent extraction methods can also yield radically different scents from the same plant. All the information was so new, at first you could tell I was kind of confused. But now that I got the process down, I really want to walk over the scent in more detail with an upcoming video. So make sure you sub and follow so you can check it out. On day 3, I met Mo and Anne, 2 young jasmine farmers, and I gotta tell you, this couple was one of my favorite parts of the entire trip. They were so passionate and spoke from the heart about their enthusiasm for farming. Although their crops had no blooms, jasmine doesn't bloom until August, and I was there in April, they kindly gave me a tour of the farm anyway and introduced me to their baby jasmine. Aww. One of the words I learned from them is tewa, which when I look at the word too quickly, it looks like the word terror. Tewa, though, describes the external environment, soil, climate, topography, and how it affects the quality and the scent of a crop. It is the tewa in Grasse that gives Mo and Anne's jasmine flowers their unique quality. It sort of reminds me a lot of my friends in New York City who insist their bagels are unlike any other simply because of the water the bagels are boiled in. Mo and Anne are part of a movement to bring fragrance farming back to Grasse. Although they seem to have a modest farm, if everything works out well for them, they will have the 2nd largest jasmine farm in all of Grasse. And I'm wishing them all the luck in the world. The United Nations UNESCO has recognized the cultivation, extraction, and art of fragrance in Grasse as something that needs to be preserved and recognized. So I'm glad Mo and Anne are helping keep this tradition alive. On my last day in Grasse, I met with Dominique Pillon for a lesson about history. She showed me how Grasse transformed an industry dominated by leather tanning into one where the growing and processing of perfume plants brought them global recognition. Now, everything that I say in this video feels like it just doesn't do the experience justice because I learned so much and I walked away with so many incredible memories. I'm really trying to share and document all I can about this experience on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. So if you're subbed to one channel and want to know a little bit more, I highly recommend that you check out some of my other channels. And if you think this experience sounds really, really cool, wait till I tell you about the amazing time I had at in-Cosmetics Global, one of the largest cosmetics exhibitions in the world. That's coming up next. And if you want to support this channel because you like what I do, then consider buying one of my products like this handy dandy notebook you see right here. And a big thanks to the AP Archive for allowing me to use their footage to show more of my Grasse experience.